Okay, so today we're going to be talking about what you need in order to make a map, or the elements of a map. And it's an easy thing to remember, it's bolts. So B-O-L-T-S, but then there's another S at the end that I'll explain. Okay, so let's talk about B, it's the border. So every map has to have a border, and here you can see the red line that's just zoomed in, that's the border of the map. You can also see this one's got a second border around it to indicate where everything else is, and we'll get to what all the rest of it is. But here you can see around the actual map itself, the bits and pieces, you can see that there's that red border. Orientation. All right, so this is how we orientate the map and how then we can orientate ourselves to the map. So if you've ever used Google Maps or maps on your phone in order to find things and get around, you'll see that when you turn your phone around, the map tries to reorientate itself. And orientation is how we describe how something is positioned. So you may have seen that. Anyway, on a map, it's where it points north. So most maps, when you open them up, if they're hard copy means it's a piece of paper. Soft copy, it means it's the one that's on your phone or another device. They normally are drawn with north going out to the top of the page. Sometimes it's not, and that's why it's important to have the orientation. So it can be just a single arrow pointing north as it is here, or it can be a whole compass, and you will have seen different ones in different maps. Okay, so that's how we orientate ourselves in the map. Now we're up to the L, so we've done B-O-L, and this is the legend. It's all these things down here that tell me what things are. So I know that this symbol here up here, if I come down to the legend, I can see it's a swimming pool. If I come up here to this one up here, I come down to here, I can see that that's a church. So there's another one here and another one here. So we use symbols on maps instead of words because when you do a map, it's too hard to write a lot of words on the map. So we just use little symbols. Okay, so but that means you've got to tell people what the symbols mean, and that's where the legend comes in. You can see all the crosses, their houses, all that sort of thing there. Here we've got just initials, so P, hopefully P's down there. Okay, P is not there. What that means is we know that it's parking because it's P and it's grey, and so we can see that the grey's there. But this legend is actually incorrect. There should be a little P in that box there to indicate that it's exactly the same as that. All right, those sorts of things are important in a legend, and remember it for your assignment. Okay, title. We have to know where the place is and what it's a map of. Ta-da! We know that this is a title, a map of Cape Beauty, because that's in the title. All right, so for your own map, when you do your assignment, you need to do that. All right, let's do our S, first S. All right, scale. This tells me how far things are in RL, real life, okay? So I know that if I put my fingers up and measure this distance here and then put it over the map here, I know that that's like 200 meters. A scale must be a ratio. So for example, 1 centimetre equals 100 metres, or 2.5 centimetres equals 100 metres. It has to be a ratio. That's what we call a ratio. So if you were going to build a ship and it was a 1-to-1 ratio, that means you're building a ship exactly the same size as the one you started with. Okay, but if it's a 1-to-100 ratio, so 1 centimetre equals 100 metres, then it's going to be 100 times smaller. Okay, so it's a ratio, and it doesn't really matter what that ratio is. You can decide, and I do another video on how to make that decision for your own map for your assignment, but it's important to have the scale to show somebody how big it is. Otherwise, when we look at a map, how would we know how far it was going to walk? So if I look at a map, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a short distance. But then if I look at the scale, I might find that that's probably about 400 meters. So I'd need to be aware of that sort of thing. And this is what a scale does. It helps us understand what this actually looks like in real life. All right, let's do the last S. Where did the map come from? So this is the source. Where did we actually know where this comes from? And down here you can see I've sourced this personally from the teachers of Canberra High School. I don't know where the map came from originally. So what I've done is I've added on the teachers of Canberra High School because that's where I've sourced it from. We all share some content because we collaborate and do that sort of stuff together. So we share stuff, which is great. So that's where my source is. All right, so different maps will have different sources, different people make them. So the Google map, for example, the source there is Google. Apple Maps, it's Apple. There might be some other ones that you've used, different mapping tools that you've used on your devices, depending on how much you use maps. All right, so this is what we have to remember, BOLTSS. All right, and you need all those elements to make a map, otherwise it's not clear to people when they read it as to what's going on and how to use the map properly and how big things are. So I hope that's been useful.